Don Lemonhead, former Clown News Network primetime host turned YouTuber, and many others may be going to jail after their latest anti-ICE protest stunt in Minnesota over the weekend. Or rather, they would be going to jail if we had a legitimate Department of Justice head instead of Pam Bondi, Scam Bondi, who is basically just a Fox News correspondent instead of the nation's top prosecutor. More on that in a moment. They interrupted a church service in St. Paul, Minnesota, and Don Lemon was right there to participate. I mean, document the whole thing. He's going to try to hide under the guise of being a journalist in order to escape the charges, which inevitably will come for some of these clowns, because the protesters believe that the pastor is also the acting field director for ICE in the area. The local Fox broadcasting television station said that they confirmed that A. David Easterwood is the acting field office director in Minnesota, and that is also the name of the pastor there, but they haven't been able to confirm that that actually is the same person. And whether or not it is or is not is irrelevant. The lunatic protesters, the agitators, the Marxist foot soldiers believe that it is. And so this is what they did to the church service yesterday.
Guys standing up now saying, "Get out of our church." He's screaming. They're trying to calm him down. So I don't know if this is what they deem as successful or not.
At the bare minimum, it is trespassing. It is disorderly conduct. And it may actually be a violation of an old statute from the 90s, which makes it a felony in order to block the entrance or intimidate people from entering a place of worship. Originally designed to make it a felony to block the entrance of abortion clinics, but then some member of Congress added in there also places of worship. It's called the FACE Act. The freedom of access to clinic entrances, okay? And this is how, like, the pork gets added to most bills that then people don't even know what's in it and they still just vote on it. But that was a good piece of pork. Somebody snuck in there. A conservative obviously snuck that in there. And so we'll see. I highly doubt that Scam Bondi has she doesn't have the balls, literally or figuratively, to actually charge anybody with this violation. But people like this are definitely getting, he's not a person, this subhuman, former human, is definitely getting charged with something, who goes by the name of Duh Woke Farmer 2 on TikTok. Also violating TikTok's terms of service by celebrating and documenting the commission of a crime that he is committing. Of course, TikTok will look the other way for that. But this is the video that he recorded and posted.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives.
Lavish lives by just going to church on a Sunday morning.
While children are dragged into concentration camps, you're living real life, nice lives with your lattes, doing absolutely nothing for your Latino and Somali brothers and sisters. You come here to...
So to be clear, he is there shouting at them. This is not just him commenting over a video.
Do not touch me. Touch me again and see what happens.
Threatening one of the churchgoers. Touch me again and see what happens.
Hey, you can't.
You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on humanity?
Because they have jobs, and your supposed attack on humanity is an Orwellian term meaning the rounding up, arresting, and deportation of criminal illegal aliens. We need to have a new term because all illegal aliens are criminals, but the ones who have additional crimes that they've committed. Not only was Don Lemonhead there encouraging, participating in the harassment, but then he also harassed the pastor right to his face, saying this.
What do you think of this?
I mean, this is unacceptable. It's shameful. It's shameful to interrupt a public gathering of Christians in worship. So,
But there were folks who will say,
I have to take care of my flock.
okay, but listen, we live in there's a Constitution and the First Amendment to freedom of speech and freedom to assemble and protest.
Yeah, you're violating their freedom to assemble. You don't have freedom of speech on someone else's property. You can't just break in and trespass on someone else's property and start shouting at them and claim that you're protected by the Constitution, Don.
We're here to worship. We're here to worship Jesus because that's the hope of these cities. That's the hope of the world is Jesus Christ.
I want to be very respectful. Please don't push me, though.
We're here.
Apparently it's assault. Don Lemonhead sticks his face 3 inches in front of yours and starts breathing on you with his porta potty smelling breath, and you just gently try to back away from this weirdo.
That's why we're here. Okay, that's why we're here. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
But did you try to talk to them as a Christian?
No one is willing to talk.
Okay.
I have to take care of my church and my family, so I asked that you actually would also leave this building.
You don't want us to chronicle what happened?
Unless you're here to worship.
I'm always worship. I'm a Christian.
We're here to worship. Yeah. We're here to worship. Okay.
Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon said that she was in touch with Attorney General Pam Bondi and the FBI, saying they are all over it. They are investigating potential criminal violations of federal law. Of course, you have to have the Assistant Attorney General out there now doing PR about what it is that the FBI and the Department of Justice are supposedly going to do, because Pam Bondi was too busy hanging out at the Israeli-American Council, assuring them that her top priority is stopping people from criticizing Israel.
The sad truth is, for way too long, anti-Semitism has been allowed to grow unchecked in this country.
Of course, we all know that anti-Semitism is almost always just a buzzword, like the word racism, used to silence criticism of Israel and to silence opposition to or questioning Israeli influence over American foreign policy in other areas of our country. So she's got to shut that down.
Too many institutions have abdicated their moral responsibility to speak up. Too many so-called leaders have stayed quiet. Actions have consequences, and inaction has consequences too.
Inaction about anti-whiteism certainly has consequences. Inaction about the endless list of crimes that you have failed to investigate, failed to prosecute anyone for, has consequences, because the criminals now continue to exist. Because the criminals continue to, well, do what they do. Shortly before Ron DeSantis announced his 2024 presidential campaign challenging President Trump for the office, remember that, he flew all the way over to Israel to sign a Florida bill into law creating hate crime legislation if people do things like project something, using literally just a projector and light onto a synagogue as an act of protest about what Israel had been doing and is continuing to do to the Palestinians in Gaza.
I always admired DeSantis, certainly during COVID. I thought he was just a remarkable leader, interviewed him many times. I know him and his wife. And it was the foreign policy stuff that made me wonder, like, what is this? And how controlled is he by Ken Griffin and the rest of his donors? And then he had this moment where he signed a hate speech law out of the country. He flew to a foreign country, Israel, to sign a hate speech law for Florida. And I thought, well, this is obviously unconstitutional. It's immoral, but it's also part of an elaborate humiliation ritual where you have to go not just like enslave your own people with a hate speech law, which that is, it's slavery, but you have to go kiss someone else's wall to show your obedience. And I was like, I'm out.
Here's Don Lemon in the aftermath celebrating, quote, how traumatic it was for the churchgoers.
Watch this guy here, look, he's hugging his kid. And, you know, I've imagined it's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here. But again, careful, it's very slippery right here. Yeah. It's uncomfortable and traumatic for the people here, but that's what really, careful, please.
Yeah, that's why they put those cones there, Don, because you're not supposed to be walking there.
Really slippery, not kidding. That's what protesting is about, and so...
Protesting is about intimidating people on private property by trespassing.
What some of the folks said in there, you know, that this is they shouldn't be there, and they shouldn't be uncomfortable, and this is our house and whatever. That's what protesting is about, is to make people uncomfortable.
It's normal people, the non-communists, all know what these people are protesting. Here is an ICE agent giving them a piece of his mind.
So you're reporting, we're here to arrest a child sex offender, and you guys are out here honking.
Oh, they're not. No, we're press. We're not
That
honking.
vehicle right there is honking and impeding our investigations while we're trying to arrest a child sex offender. That's who you guys are protecting. Insane.
Yes, it is. That's what communism does to people. And here is Democrat Senator Chris Van Hollen from Maryland on one of the Sunday night news wrap-up shows, signaling how the Democrats will be dealing with this crime.
I don't hear you saying what I'm hearing from a lot of others in the party and the protesters, certainly, to abolish ICE. But we are hearing those calls. And I want
Oh, we're hearing those calls, all right, but not just from crazy pundits on TV and the protesters, but from foreign usurpers who worm their way into Congress, like Ilhan Omar and Sri Thanadar.
ICE is beyond reform. ICE is totally out of control. And this week, I intend to introduce a bill to abolish ICE.
Okay, new rule. If you have a foreign accent, you should not be allowed to hold political office of any kind in the United States. The Founding Fathers saw the conflict of interest from foreigners coming here. And so that's why, in order to be the president, you have to have been born here. But for some reason, the Founding Fathers and every generation of Congress after that completely messed up by allowing foreigners to hold other political offices.
I want to read you what your colleague Ruben Gallego said about this. He said, clearly ICE is an absolute problem. They're out of control, moving way too fast. The last thing we need to do again is to make the same mistake when it comes to defund the police rhetoric. Are you worried that these calls to abolish ICE could be problematic for the party? I mean, people might not like what they're seeing ICE doing, but they think our immigration laws should be enforced.
We love what ICE is doing. In fact, we need more of it. We need 100 times, 1,000 times more ICE agents in every city and every small town in America to get rid of these people.
Well, yes, but what's happening right now is the ICE agents are the ones breaking the law, not the peaceful protesters. So I believe we should not be funding an ICE operation that is completely lawless. It needs dramatic reform. Donald Trump said he was going to go after the, quote, worst of the worst. If you look at their own data, 80% of the people they're apprehending around the country pose no public threat whatsoever.
They're convicted criminals. We all know how the Democrats feel about crime. They love it. Here's Sheriff Grady in Florida making a statement about illegal aliens and crime that really should be played on all major media as a PSA to help educate the mentally challenged among us.
Well, I don't call them undocumented immigrants. I call them illegal immigrants because that's what they are.
Illegal aliens, sir.
The reason they're not documented is they're not legal, okay? They're illegal immigrants. 74% of the illegal immigrants that we've detained have had criminal charges against them, okay? The other 26% were riding with them, okay? So when we stop a car, we run a warrants check on everybody in the car. When there's a call for service, we run a warrants check on the victim, the suspect, and all the witnesses, okay? We call that 26% collateral. But 3 out of 4 of them have committed another criminal charge.
Those are the people that are around the illegal aliens that they're arresting.
Now think about that for a second. They couldn't commit that crime if they weren't here, but they did. So now you're having to take your taxpayer money and my taxpayer money and pay for the prosecution of those folks, pay for the public defender that defends them, pay for the jail and the prison sentence depending on what the charges are. So and the majority of the 26% that was left out of the 74% of them had criminal charges. They were what we call collaterals, and most of them were with the person committing the crime. And that's the numbers that we have so far.
So we'll see what this toothless Department of Justice does, because we all know that the Biden Justice Department was able to track down basically every single person who was at the Capitol at the mostly peaceful protest on January 6th, including those who just stepped foot on the stairs, like Owen Schroyer, and didn't even go in and were arrested. They spent years tracking down those people because some of them, they didn't have clear shots of them. They weren't really sure. So they spent countless time and resources and dollars to track down those people for trespassing on the Capitol. So we'll see what Scam Bondi, what Bimbo Bondi and the Department of Jokers does about this. Subscribe to my channel if you're new here, and if you want to support my work, then just buy me a coffee by clicking the link in the description below. It's a great crowdsourcing service that people can use to support their favorite content creator. Way better than leaving a super thanks or a super chat, because YouTube takes 30% off the top of that. So just head on over there, click the link in the description below, and check it out.